When I grow up, I wanna love what I do. And then when I grow up, a coach can help me get a clue. Welcome back to Grown Up Gigs, an inside look at dream jobs held by real people. And I'm here with just one of my favorite people, Kari Chapin. She is the best-selling author of Grow Your Handmade Business and the Handmade Marketplace. She's a speaker, she is a teacher, she is a consultant, she is a community leader. She's just the epitome of being a creative Renaissance soul, and I'm so happy to have her here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yay! Okay, so I have to start every single interview with a question. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a bunch of things, but the first job I can ever really remember wanting to have was actress. And then I wanted to be a solid gold dancer for a really long time. And somewhere around the fourth grade, I decided on archaeologist. But then I think around the fourth and fifth grade, when I started really becoming a reader, I definitely wanted to be a writer, but I wasn't sure how that was going to play out. I really thought that you could only be a journalist or a fiction writer. I wasn't really sure how other writing actually got done and didn't really think about it for a long time until I started working in more professional positions. But definitely actress, solid gold dancer, archaeologist, writer.
So there was a point where you being an avid reader as a child, preteen, teenager kind of played into, oh, I want to write. Did that play into your high school, college, post-college years?
I'm actually a high school dropout. I dropped out in the 10th grade and didn't really go to much college. I went to one semester when I was pursuing a degree in industrial design. I wanted to make furniture in my late teens and early 20s. And had been making furniture on the side for a long time. And since I left high school pretty young, I also left home around the same time. So I have worked in careers or jobs for a little bit longer than most people my age. So I was making furniture on the side and went to college to do it because I thought I would have access to a much better studio and a lot more tools, but it was pretty structured, and I'm not very good with a lot of structure or a lot of rules. And so college didn't work out for me either, so I did not go to high school, and I really barely went to college.
I don't know how I didn't know that about you. And I talked to Jessica Hepburn the other day. Jessica will be our Grown Up Gig interviewee tomorrow, and she has a very similar story, and I love it more than anything because I feel like the educational landscape is really changing. I feel like college is not the best decision for everyone, and yet at the same time it's kind of pushed down a lot of our throats, and we convince ourselves that without that degree we won't be successful, but it is bull crap.
Yeah, it took me a really long time to not be to not gloss over it or sort of hide it, because I was really afraid that it would affect how people thought about me or my work if they knew that I couldn't even get through high school. But I'm just not cut out. I wasn't happy in school as a grade school kid. I did not like elementary school. I didn't like junior high beyond the social activities or opportunities. I've just never liked the traditional classroom as a student. I really love learning and love learning as an adult, but I really need a lot of control over my own life and over my own structures, and really can't do much of anything if I feel really restricted, and that included college. But it's took a long time to be okay saying that, or to look at it from a different perspective, because certainly when I was starting out, I really saw it as a failure. I definitely don't now. Now I really don't have feelings about it strongly one way or the other. I don't think it helped make me who I am today any more than it would have helped make me the same person but with a college degree had I gone a different way. Like, I don't advocate either way, but
are you able to talk to or articulate what got you through that kind of mental mindset of, oh, I don't have these degrees, and so therefore I'm less than, or I'm not qualified to do this work. Mm-hmm. Was there anything that is tangible at all that you could speak to about shifting out of that? That's a really hard reframe.
I guess I was mostly like really living in fear of it a lot of the time, and when it would come up, I never lied, but I definitely tried to gloss over it, or I interjected a lot of the other things that were going on in my life at the same time to sort of justify why I didn't graduate from high school, or why I left home so early, or why I didn't like college.
Right.
I tried to find a lot of reasons for that, like outside forces, and I think eventually, once I started doing a lot of interviews and it was coming up more and more, I just took a leap one day and thought, I'm not really ashamed of myself, so why am I trying to cover it up? And the more I just decided to be kind of honest about it and not try to gloss it over, the less important it really became to me. So it wasn't any big, like, mental process or unique opportunity. It was just more like, oh, I'm so tired of trying to figure out a good way to say, I dropped out of the 10th grade. Like, that's just the fact. So once I just decided to kind of own more of what I did and focus less on it myself, number one, I realized most people think it's pretty interesting because a lot of people put all of their efforts into their education. And certainly if you're going to do some sort of job or base your career on something that really requires you to have an education, like doctor.
Right, you can't be a doctor without going through medical school.
Yeah, then, definitely college is the place for you. But if you're just not sure and you're biding your time, I mean, I really think that spending your time exploring is essentially what you're supposed to do in college. So I just did it my own way. And once I just decided that it was good enough for me, then it just really stopped mattering. So now if it's not good enough for somebody else, I don't know what I would do, because nobody's ever said, oh, well, I'm definitely returning this book because, you couldn't make it through your sophomore year of high school, loser. No, that hasn't happened yet. So I don't know what I would do if somebody else didn't like it, but I just decided to be done with it. Like,
that's the mindset, and that's the mind shift I was talking about. I mean, that is a tangible piece. It's just like, I'm owning it. I'm not putting such emphasis on it. I'm not getting attached to it. I'm just stating it as it is. And obviously you feel confident and own your personality traits and your skill set and your own intellect and all the other things that make you, make up your uniquity. You're able to own it.
As a nonfiction writer, a lot of people want you to explain that. What makes you an expert, or what makes you knowledgeable to teach me this information? And I think that that's kind of a little bit of a catch-22. Like, you can just love something and study it. I mean, I also know how to make a perfect grilled cheese sandwich, but I did not go to school for that. And every time I serve one to somebody, they never say, what? Where'd you learn how to do this? They're not, the sandwich isn't more delicious based on my qualifications of how I did it. And sort of coming to that realization is just, it's really freeing. And my mind is so all the time that I don't have the extra space for shame or guilt, or to talk myself out of my own success, or to downplay what I'm doing. I mean, everybody I talk to on a professional level, I want to sell them something, whether it's a book or my time or to hire me for something. It doesn't do any good to start off those conversations with, here's why I'm not a good choice.
Right. Although we could argue that you dropping out of high school and not going to college doesn't make you a bad choice. It's allowed you to be who you are. It's probably actually added into your own story and qualifications at this point.
Absolutely. But when I used to try to gloss it over, it was because I was afraid it made me look like a bad choice. So I was coming from a place of, nobody's going to take me as seriously without a high school degree. I mean,
Right.
It's so funny. You can be so far away from high school, and it still actually maybe kind of matters if you let it. And I just chose, to stop letting that matter. So either somebody's going to think it's great that I don't have a formal education, or it's going to turn some people off. And that's just like every other thing that I do.
Right. Right. We can't please everyone.
Nope.
And I think the second you try to please everyone is when you're going to please no one, and just everything gets muted and gray.
Yeah, I just don't have time for that or the space in my head for that kind of stuff anymore. There's plenty of other things up there to untangle and straighten out without letting that one piece be such a big part of who I am.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So let's back up a little bit, because I'm curious as to the transition between making furniture and you being the Kari Chapin that I know and love. So how did you find your way to getting a book deal and being a published author and really being such an integral part of the handmade community?
Well, I think when I look back through all of the jobs that I've held and all of the places that I worked and all of the hobbies that I've been particularly passionate about and the ways that I really choose to spend my free time back then and now, all have had a couple of things in common, which is I love art. I love making things by hand. I love it when other people make things by hand. And that's really a common denominator in most of the jobs that I have. I grew up in a theater family, and we had placed a lot of priority on creativity, on being an individual, on art, on arts funds, on all kinds of things like that. So I think that my foundation was already really there. And as I tried to get more professional jobs, those jobs all had something sort of in common. When I was making furniture, I sold it in galleries or I sold it to friends, to set designers. Like, I just had a lot of different outlets for me to sell my art. And I really enjoyed doing that. And so that's why I signed up for college courses. And then that just sort of led to working in an art gallery, and then I was framing people's art, which I really loved. I've just always really loved the community in general, but wasn't sure how to interject myself into it as a professional, because I learned somewhere along the way that I didn't really want to make my living as an artist or as a hand maker, but I wanted to make sure other people could. Just like when I was a teenager, I realized I didn't really want to be an actor, but I wanted to make sure that other people could.
Oh, it's so interesting.
I really wanted that in my life, but I didn't want to be on stage. I wanted to make sure there was a stage and that there was a ticket buyer, that there was a patron, that there was an actor, that there was a set designer. And I just sort of felt like that about most things that I've done. So as an adult, I went into work for more theaters, but as a marketer and a publicist, a volunteer coordinator, always tried to be involved in any good art gallery that was around me that I could, whether I was on their board of directors or volunteering at their First Fridays. Like, I've always had these parts of my life. I just didn't know how to turn them into a full-on job. And then I left a prestigious theater I was working for in Massachusetts to become a buyer for a home goods store where we stocked primarily handmade eco-friendly goods, which was sort of a new thing at the time. And through working at that shop, I started getting a lot of gigs as a stylist. So then I was running the shop during the day. And in my free time, I was working for magazines and other publishers, doing a lot of the styling for photo shoots and books. And I started buying furniture for people independently. When I would go out scouting, somebody would give me lists or pictures. Pinterest back then would have made my life so much. Somebody would say, I'm looking for this kind of sideboard. This is my price range. And I could spend all day going from antique store to estate sale to yard sale, like looking for that one sideboard in my customers' price range. And so in a funny way, they've just all sort of come together to be one big thing that I do and that I love. And I really appreciate that I can dip in and dip out of whatever part is calling to me at the moment. You know, I just signed up for a woodworking class, so I am going to go into refurbishing furniture and upholstering my own furniture, which is just a different side of that coin. But the book deal came about from just deciding that I had enough information to share and I wanted to write a book.
Wow.
So I found somebody who had the power to make that happen and said, I have a book idea. And then I just sold it like anything else. Like I would have sold a theater ticket. Like I could sell you a chair right now. I just had an idea. I really believed in it. I wanted it to happen. And I just simply asked for help until I found the right person that said, I can help you.
I love that.
I think so many people make it so complicated.
yes.
And I just don't want to operate like that in my own world. And so if I want something, I find out who knows about it, who's in charge of that thing, how can they help me, and if I need to hire them or if I need to take them out for coffee, if I need to buy their book, how can they help me? Whether it's in person, over the phone, or we never talk at all. I just read everything they've ever written or watch all their videos. Who can help me? And when I find out who can help me, things just fall into place. And it's not because I'm magic or other people who know how to do that are magic. It's just really deciding and then doing. It's not a big process, but when I decided that I had a book in me that I really wanted to write, I just found a person at a party who said she was an editor at a publisher, and I said, oh, I've got a book proposal. And I didn't really know what that meant, but she said, send it to me. I went straight home, looked up what a book proposal was, wrote it, because I did have the idea. I wrote the book proposal, sent it to her, and that was the Handmade Marketplace.
Oh my gosh, Kari. I love you. I love this story. I love all it represents. I love the law of attraction in action, and just being able to be like, this is what I wanted to do, and opening your mouth, right? I think really that's what the law of attraction is about. It's about being able to get clear and articulate on what it is you want to do so that when you meet that editor, you don't keep it to yourself, that you have this book idea, you have this proposal, even though you don't. And then really going home and putting the pedal to the metal, you have someone that was interested in the proposal. Let's do this. It's not something that you need to take a year to put together the perfect proposal and then, shop it out to 1 billion people or whatever. It's taking action in the moment.
It is. There's a little cliche that I say a lot in my own head, which is your dreams don't work if you don't. And I repeat that to myself constantly when I'm feeling really challenged. But what I have figured out about working for myself is everybody wants to help you. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to support you. Mm-hmm. And if you need to team up with somebody else the way that I needed to team up with a publisher, that publisher wants to buy best-selling manuscripts.
Right.
They want to put the best book out in the world. They want to find somebody who can write a good book. They want fresh ideas. Mm-hmm. If you have those, you can make that person's life so much easier. I mean, sometimes if I'm really afraid to approach somebody or ask for something, I just convince myself I'm doing them a favor. Mm. And in a lot of ways, it's true. They want to be good at their job, and they can't be good at their job without the support underneath them, which is sort of where I come in. I have a good book idea. So this publisher who wants best-selling books says, yes, let me know about it, because that's what they're actually looking for. So if you keep your dreams inside or your big thoughts or your big plans and you're just constantly trying to perfect them, it doesn't matter, because if you want to be in the industry that I'm in, it's all collaborative. Mm-hmm. Never once have I said, I'm designing my own product line right now, and it won't be out until 2015. But I really just had this great idea, and I met an editor at a lunch and said, I have a really great idea, and here it is. And before I knew it, we had a contract. I, have this big project in the works. And everything is so collaborative that if you spend your time trying to perfect something and get it exactly right, it doesn't really matter in the end, because by the time an editor comes into play, and then your copy editor, and then your friends that you talk to, or anybody else that you need to collaborate or talk over your ideas with, all those great people all have great thoughts. Mm-hmm. And since you're a creative person to begin with, you absorb all of that, and things change all the time. Mm-hmm. In fact, the scariest part of my job is when somebody says, it's going to print. Mm-hmm. When I lose the ability to stop making changes
right.
or having new ideas that I can interject, that's when I actually feel fear. It's not in the beginning when I just have an idea, because people love that. Talk about ideas. And then trying to make something perfect from the get-go before you move forward just really hinders your progress, because everything changes. It changes and changes and changes until it goes to print. And then you just have to really hope that you have done the best job that you can do, or hope that you get a second edition so you can make changes if you want to, or figure out ways to play off of your product or your book so that you can incorporate the other ideas that you had. You know, how else can you add them in if they're not going to go into your finished product? How can you make it a part of your overall package or message? And so it just keeps rolling all the time. Spending a lot of time trying to make something perfect is useless, because you don't have the final say. And that's why you work with other experts, and they do genuinely know things that I could never hope to know, or things that I don't want to know. I don't want to know about art design. I don't want to know what is the #1 font people love.
Right.
I don't want to know those things. That's why I need those experts to come in on the other end and collaborate with me. So
and
it's really important.
That's amazing. And I feel like all of this is just such a great reflection of you mentioning earlier that you're always trying to sell someone something. And I know that the vast majority of us creative female, not to gender stereotype, but female entrepreneur who want to help and be, you know, heart-centric and authentic. You think of selling and promotions and marketing as such a dirty word. It seems like, from what I'm hearing from you, it's about not only providing value, knowing that you have something to provide of value, but also being able to collaborate and work with others and notice and hear what they have to provide also. So it's really this like two-way, wonderful, collaborative process, which is so great. It's so great.
I'm so thankful, because it's hard to work alone. You know, I'm alone a lot of the time in my work. So by the time I get to the stage where I can start the collaboration on a daily or a weekly basis, it's like the best part of the project to me.
Yay, it's so great. And it's great that you can make time for that and know, okay, I'm going to be in my book for a while, and then I know I need to be with other people, so let's go speak in an event or go start something new or blah, blah, blah. Go teach at a college. You do so many different things. Like so many of us, we have our hands in a lot of different pots. So hearing you kind of still talk about your journey, was there something that opened up that once you wrote the book, you realized, I'm going to speak, I'm going to lead a community, I'm going to do one-on-one consultations and mentoring, so on and so forth? Was that sort of a specific decision that you made?
I don't know if it was a specific decision that I made, but it was the result of listening to what people wanted from me. So as an author, I realized fairly quickly that even if your book is a top seller and your numbers are really great, it just really wasn't enough. And not just enough money, but it just wasn't enough to do. So if you're really lucky, I am incredibly fortunate to have the publisher that I have. So they send me across the country on book tour. They help me fund trips to speak to big groups or to teach. They really support me and support my work in all of the ways. And not everybody who has a book deal can get that kind of one-on-one support from their publisher. These days, people really put a lot of the onus onto the success of a book back to the author. And while I think that that's good in a lot of ways, it's also hard in a lot of ways, because writing books isn't exactly profitable unless you are J.K. Rowling or Twilight Lady or, you know, something like that. It's not... It's a great foundation, but also when it's over, it's over. So if you write a book and you put it out into the world, and say you have 3 months of promoting it and you let everybody on your website know and you're really getting yourself out there, when that 3 months is up, I needed to create something that was going to be next for me because I wanted to keep up my momentum. I wanted to stay engaged with my readers. And I wasn't exactly sure how to do that in 2010 when the Handmade Marketplace took off. So just sort of grew organically. What were they really asking me? And when I realized that I had about literally thousands of emails built up over the years of people asking the same questions again and again, and I don't engage all that great on my website. It's just not the medium that I really prefer to work in. Then I created the community. So now people can subscribe and they can get newsletters and be a part of an individual face group. And I am very active in there and answer their questions and participate with them there. That's really great. So people can get what they want. And I can help more people without helping them individually, which is what I needed to get away from in the beginning. The teaching and the speaking just sort of happened also organically. I just let people know that I'm really interested in continuing to work with this material. I don't think that once you have 1 book, 2 books, or 3 books on the subject, that that's all there is to say. I mean, the world, especially my personal one, is growing all of the time. And I want to stay in that. I want to be in that. And so in order to do that, I can't put a book out every month or every
right.
I mean, obviously I could if I wanted to put out an ebook, but so the way to do that was to connect with people. So once I started letting people know that I wanted to speak more, I wanted to teach, opportunities just come once you say you want them. I know it sounds so simplistic, but I really don't know any other way to say it. But if you want to be a speaker and you want to book more speaking gigs, you just tell everybody you know, I really want to speak more. And eventually somebody's going to say, hey, I know a speaker. It's this girl. You should talk to her when the opportunity comes up. But if you don't put it out there, then it can't come back to you in any way. So I just let it be known. Hey, I really like speaking. I'm really good at it. I really like teaching. I'm really good at it. And your calendar can just fill up.
Right. So to talk to that a little bit, I think that wearing all these different hats, a lot of the times, people say to me, like, do you sleep? And when do you sleep? And how do you figure out on a day-to-day basis what you need to be working on? How do you prioritize and stuff? And I feel like it's such a hard question to answer because I know with all of us, our day-to-day looks really different. But do you have any insight as to how you juggle your projects and time manage in the way that you do that's productive and helpful for you?
Yeah, it's a little bit different than I think what a lot of other people do, but I just do what I want to do and when I want to do it. And it's as simple as that. For the first few years of my business, I invested in every computer program that existed. I bought every book. I had coaches. I had lots of support. I read a lot of books. I really tried hard to figure out how to get my world to fit in the pages of my day planner. And while that might work for a really detailed person or a very organized person, it doesn't work for me. I don't work like that. If I wake up in the morning and really don't want to do anything, then I try to think about the consequences of not doing something that I'm supposed to do today. Am I willing to take them? Even if that means I have to pull an all-nighter tomorrow night, or I can't go to the movies with my husband. Like, is it really worth it for me to binge watch 10 episodes of Nashville right now and have to stay up all night tomorrow night? And I just constantly put my work in the form of choices. And that's really how it works for me. I also try to make sure that there's a really good connecting thread between everything that I do. So that essentially, even if teaching a course for a college or university has nothing to do with a high-level strategy session with a business owner who's trying to plan her next year, they don't really seem connected on the surface, but they both allow my brain to work in the same way and stay focused on the same kind of information that I enjoy the most. So one thing supports another, even if it's just through my own thought process. The other thing that I try to do to manage my time and all of my jobs, because I actually do have a crazy amount of jobs, and if you were to look at a list of them, it would seem impossible, is I really just do what I want to do.
So great.
If today I'm going to write, then I write. I try to make sure that my deadlines are broad. I try to make sure that I am interested in everything that I'm doing. That's really key. If it's not something that's attractive to me, if I say yes to things because of money or prestige, or I think I'll disappoint someone if I say no, those are all really good indicators that that's not the right thing for me to do. And I have gotten into, I couldn't even count them on all my fingers and toes of times when I've been like, dang it, why am I doing this? And it's because I was focused on other things, not disappointing somebody, a paycheck, or thinking that it was going to make me look good. Those three things together really don't make me feel good. And I have learned to stop fighting my nature of I just don't do things that I don't want to do. And it's just as simple as that. So some days I write, some days I plan, some days I take walks and think about what I'm going to write when I get home, some days...
Amen. And
Amen.
hallelujah. And hallelujah.
It just all does fall together. There's not any real magic way to manage your time. I mean, if I'm on a tight deadline, I set my timer. That really works for me. If I'm checking my email obsessively, I make myself delete 5 emails every time I go into my Gmail. Like, sure, you checked it 20 seconds ago. You can check it now, but do you really want to find 5 emails to delete? If the answer is no, then I don't check. I just constantly make myself make choices and then deal with the consequences. And sometimes I really screw myself and have like terrible consequences. But if I accepted them a few days ago when I knew I was derailing myself, then I just suck it up.
So I'm hearing choices, I'm hearing prioritizing, I'm hearing, making decisions on kind of a moment-to-moment basis and really checking in the hippy-dippy way of like, is this a hell yes? And if it's not a hell yes for me right now, then it's definitely a no. And I think it just exemplifies the way that we're able to work in 2014, that it can be all these different income streams and projects while still falling under an umbrella.
Yeah, I want to say pretty quickly, though, that I almost never have a hell yes.
Oh, interesting.
So that's one of those things that sort of is out around in the world that makes me personally feel bad because I just am not ever like, absolutely, or hell no. I'm always kind of somewhere in the middle. So that's why I have to really narrow it down to, is this really about money? Is this really about my image? Or is this really about how I feel about the other person? Because I just don't ever necessarily have hell yeses. Almost everything I do, whether it's teach a class or speak at a conference or take on a big client, I'm almost always a little bit afraid of those things. None of them just seem like, I've got this.
Right.
I don't, and the hell yes kind of implies that to me, like, and I don't ever really have that. So just in case there's one other person in the world who's just, really like kind of neutral on most things, you want something, but I'm right there with you. Everything I do is scary to me. I don't understand the expression work from your edge. That doesn't, I just don't know what that means. I can't get behind that kind of language because I just move forward every day. I feel really bad every time I see that, like, oh shoot, the internet says, say yes, and then say no to protect yourself. Like, the
internet says a lot of things that are big shoulds and shouldn't be blanket statements for everyone. So I loved hearing you talk about the specifics of knowing if, when you make a decision from these places, that ends up being not the right decision for you. So everyone looking inside themselves to say, oh, the things that I regret are the things that I said yes to from a place of blah. Then you could find your own kind of compass as to what you're saying. Yes to.
I also really don't believe in balance. I think that is a big myth. Sometimes I just work really hard and sometimes I work less hard. And when I work less hard, I don't even have less benefits. I just am working less hard. And I just trust that my mind is always putting something together for later, and I just don't know what it is yet. So I just believe that it's happening. and then wait for it to appear somewhere. That's my big strategy.
Last question that I would love to wrap up on. There's someone that, you know, goes to your site and looks at everything that you've done and what you're doing now and what you're about to do and goes, oh, I want to do that. Like, what's the one big thing that you would tell them?
To just start and figure out whatever it is of that starting moment. If there's something really big you want to do, like write a book, write a book at the top of a piece of paper and track back all the way to that moment where you're sitting there making the list. And if there's 500 things on your list or 10 things on your list, do those things.
Yeah.
Just if the biggest piece of advice I think I have in general for all entrepreneurs is just to decide. That's really the thing. Decide that you can do it. Decide that you want to do it. Decide to get it done. And then you will figure out how to do all those things. We did not know how to do anything that we do on a daily basis. I did not know how to make coffee until one day I made coffee, and now I make it several times a day. I didn't know how to write a book until I wrote a book. I didn't know how to do, we don't know how to do anything. I mean, I don't know why we separate our dreams from things that we do every day. Like, this other one thing is so impossible. I mean, if somebody told you your legs didn't work, thank God you didn't know that when you were baby. You could not walk today. You know, I mean, it's just so random to me that we put on the brakes when it comes to something that feels like a big dream, when really your personal stuff should be what matters to you the most, and that's where your dreams are. Then just begin already. There's no sense in putting off your own happiness ever, whether it's writing a book or learning to drive a car or moving to Paris or marrying whoever you want to marry. I mean, there's I don't know why people delay their happiness. So just begin.
We're ending right there. I'm so glad that is where we're ending. Thank you so much. I mean, so many gems of wisdom and just inspiration for me. I cannot wait for the Grown Up Gigs audience to see and hear all of your wisdom. So thank you so much. Everyone go visit Kari at KariChapin.com. Visit me at WhenIGrowUpCoach.com. Thanks for being here. Bye, guys.
Bye.
That was Amazeballs.